This is an Audio Wool original.
This episode of Frightday is brought to you by Spring-Heeled Jack Coffee. You need great coffee. Jack delivers. Visit springheeljack.coffee.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. If you'd like to support us, go to patreon.com/
Cryptids and conspiracies.
So this episode took a little bit different turn than what I was anticipating. Byron, for this week I looked into moon whistleblowers, specifically NASA moon whistleblowers. So there are people who have worked for NASA over the years who've come forward and said weird shit was going on. Okay, so I started digging down this rabbit hole, and sure enough, there are some really good things. We'll touch on them a little bit. But then I discovered a gentleman who is actually going to occupy the bulk of this evening's report. And I am looking forward very much to introducing him to you and hopefully to some of our listeners,
Where's
too.
he at?
Well, I'm hoping that you will be getting me an interview with him in the very near term.
You're right. I am working on
Okay,
that.
did you really already...
Absolutely not. Can't even remember his name.
Okay, fine.
I'll get there.
All right. What's going to be fun about this is you guys are going to discover this gentleman through the same weird connection that I discovered him.
We're going on a journey.
It's part of the journey. We're going to first discuss a gentleman named Ken Johnstone. The thing is, he's called both Ken Johnston and Ken Johnstone. I have yet to decide which one is his actual name, and that might lead you to believe that he's a disreputable man.
Seems like a disinfo act.
There also might be another piece of information that would lead you to believe that he's a disreputable man. In some presentations, he's gone by Dr. Johnson.
Ken has 3 Bachelors of Science degrees in aviation and aerospace engineering. He has a doctorate in divinity and a PhD in metaphysics.
Or Johnston, pardon me, Dr. Johnston. He's not really
Not
a doctor.
quite. Okay,
And he
sure.
also doesn't really have a PhD because the degree he received was from like the Reformed Baptist University of Colorado or something like that. And we aren't even sure if he has the degree from there. So here's the thing about Dr. Johnstone. There really is almost a split between the two
You
things.
gotta pick one for the sake of the show.
Let's just go with Johnston then. I feel like it's
Cool.
more common.
All right.
All right, so Byron, in order to introduce you to Ken, while I'm reading his story, I'm going to need you to pull up the photos that Ken has, which are exactly why we are going to be discussing him
Are
tonight.
these the photos inside his book, Ken's Moon? Whoops.
Kind of. Ken's Moon does indeed talk about his photos, but this is a good archive of
Yeah.
the best available quality of those images
You rarely see an exclamation point in a book title.
in a book title.
Yeah.
If we're going to talk about his books, though, I'm sending you a link to one that I prefer.
Oh, you're not a fan of Ken's Moon revealing the dark mission?
No, I
of
do
NASA?
like Ken's Moon, but I like this one better.
Okay.
Look at the one I just sent you and look at the cover for it.
All right. What do we got here? The regression of a NASA whistleblower. And that is it does appear to be a little boy spaceman
Yep.
staring skyward at a UFO.
You bet it is. Ken Johnston, I'm going to skip the doctor part because it is a bit controversial.
It's not real.
Ken Johnston was one of 4 civilian astronaut consultant pilots from the Apollo moon program. This is
Okay.
true. Okay.
Okay.
He's a retired aerospace engineer, U.S. Marine, and NASA whistleblower. So the person that got him into trouble is none other than Richard C. Hoagland.
Oh no. From hero to enemy.
Yeah. Here's kind of an abbreviated version of his story. He was hired after serving in the armed forces by Grumman Aircraft Corp. because of his training as a pilot and became a principal contractor for the Apollo lunar module testing. Pretty cool deal. So he was supposed to help them with cockpit and instrument development and also with astronaut training at the Manned Space Center, which later became the Johnson Space Center, not Johnson in Houston, Texas. And he was a quote-unquote civilian astronaut consultant pilot. So you will hear sometimes when you look up Ken Johnston, astronaut Ken Johnston. Well, no, not really.
Not quite.
Not really. But he was legit, okay? He worked as a contractor from 66 to 72 during the Apollo program.
Okay.
And he was, interesting, there must be some connection because it says he was employed by Brown and Root Northrop.
Oh, so Northrop Grumman did merge at some point, would be my guess.
He worked for both of them. Weird. Okay.
Huh.
principal contractors to NASA for management of the Lunar Receiving Laboratory, where all the moon rocks were stored, which we will get to later on this month. Curated, cataloged, and in some cases distributed to scientists who had successfully applied to carry out analyses in their own labs. We know that a lot of the rocks went elsewhere, but we'll talk about that later. An important part of his duty was to provide photographic and preliminary analysis of the lunar samples to the contributing scientists from around the world. The photographic documentation was to document the lunar samples' exact location and orientation where they were retrieved. In addition to the photos, he provided copies of the lunar sample information catalogs to the scientists, and as such, he had in his office several sets of photographs taken by Apollo astronauts with their chest-mounted cameras. Hasselblad cameras. You may know what that is. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, nice medium format cameras.
Cool. Well, that's great. When the lunar sample distribution wound down, he was instructed by Bud Laskawa, his boss, to destroy what remained of the photo archive. But he did not. He kept one set as a personal collection for a work portfolio. He went on and applied to work as an astronaut, but he was turned down because NASA wanted the astronauts to be PhD-level scientists. And then when they started recruiting again, he applied again, but at that point he was too old. So,
How old is too old to be an astronaut?
I don't know, probably like 30. But I have no
What?
idea. No, I don't really know.
Oh, no.
I have no idea. He was plenty older than 30 at that
Okay,
point.
that
I think
makes
he was born in 42. So it was probably in the 80s that he was like probably 40 when he was applying to do it. But he did join their educational outreach program as a solar system ambassador, which meant that he would travel around and speak at civic groups and youth groups about space exploration and encouraging everybody to get involved in STEM.
And also, if we ever find life in another solar system, then he gets to be the actual ambassador for our solar system, right?
I mean, I guess probably not. But he doesn't anymore because of Richard Hoagland.
Oh, God, here we go.
Okay. So he got into big old trouble a few years ago when he was quoted in Richard Hoagland's book. So Richard wrote a book with Mike Barra, maybe even mentioned it last week, Dark Mission, The Secret History of NASA.
I believe so.
He was almost immediately after the release of this book contacted by JPL director of the outreach education program that he was a part of, asking for his resignation. Johnston refused, citing First Amendment protections of free speech afforded to all NASA employees, even those at JPL, and so they just kicked him off anyway. Now, what would have pissed JPL off so much? Well, I will tell you. In the photos, which will of course be in the show notes of this episode of Frightday.com, in which Byron, I'm sure, is poring over right now.
Yeah.
Go back to poring over the photos, Byron.
Okay, sure.
I sent you the link.
Got it.
There are some interesting things shown there. He claims there are pictures and evidence of ruins on the moon.
No.
Potentially unidentified aerial craft. And there's the one that I find, I would say, the most compelling. Byron, I don't know what photo number you're looking at. Look at the fucking photos, Byron.
I am.
Number 15.
Okay. If you're looking for more moon ruins, though, we did that in episode 166, Hereditary and Moon Ruins. It's a big episode.
It is a big one. Now, we've got some things that could be light anomalies for sure.
Yeah. And some that could be double exposures. This is not just a...
Here's the thing. This is the one thought that I had, Byron, because I agree with you to a certain degree.
Kind of angry about this one.
Okay, but if some of these that are like aerial shots, like let's say 9 and 6 and 4.
And these are, again, in the show notes for folks at home. Super fun.
I don't necessarily see a lot in those, but also if it's been a while. But when I'm in an airplane and flying over, stuff below looks totally abstract and nonsensical to me too. So my eyes aren't trained to look at that. I don't know. I'm certainly not going to die on the hill of ancient moon ruins.
Yeah.
But I've listened to a couple interviews with Ken now. He's old, and it's really a little bit sad. It sounds like he might have some early onset dementia. He was interviewed a couple years ago, and I mean, he was up there, but he was only like 75, and he was like repeating himself a lot.
Focus was just
I was actually a little bit pissed at the podcasters because I felt like they really should have
steered him a little bit.
Steered him more or edited it because there wasn't anything to be gained from him doing that. It was just kind of embarrassing.
We've definitely been in situations where
Yes,
I have
we
made
have.
interviewees sound good.
Yes, we have. they were being nice to him. I just think they're not great podcasters, and so they didn't edit anything. And anyhow, I do not think he's a disinformation agent, nor do I think that he's full of shit. I think that his credentials are legit, aside from that whole Bible college thing. I also believe he believes what he's talking about. Now, it isn't just the photos. The photos are the evidence.
Before you move away from the photo, can you go to number 12? It's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 put together in a collage, and it's labeled Apollo mission UFOs.
Okay.
I don't like that all of the UFOs in these images are upright, because in space there is no upright.
I wouldn't say that they're upright. The bottom one could be turned to the left. Also, I don't like the fact that UFOs is possessive rather than plural.
That is very true. That is
That
a huge
bothers me.
error by Brett C. Shepard, the person who made this image. But I think the majority of them are turned upright, or at least
Or maybe the
photographed
camera
that
is
way.
shifted.
The way they're presenting it doesn't make sense, though. That's like looking at a drawing of the solar system and being, yeah, they're all flat and circle around the sun. It doesn't make any sense.
Like I said, some of those, the one on the bottom, I would not say is upright.
The one in the bottom is
So
like
number
a
10,
fucking
can you tell me what we're
splotch.
looking at with 10?
All right, and you have to describe what it is in number 10 for me.
That's what I'm asking you.
This is a blurred landscape. This is nothing.
I mean, like, maybe that could be one of the spaceships from, like, Prometheus.
With the day this comes out, you still have a chance. No, that was last week. You can go back to my Twitch stream, Casual Frightday. I'm showing a video of someone who believes that there are 4 other cryptids in the background of the Patterson-Gimlin footage. It is a hoot.
You're what?
Yeah, I found a clip of footage claiming that there are 4 other cryptids in the
What
background.
cryptids are they?
You'll just have to tune in to find out. Casual Frightday, twitch.tv/Frightday, or go to youtube.com/Frightday.
Oh, wow.
It's a good time. But this is horseshit garbage where people are staring at the clouds and saying it looks like something. These aren't literally clouds. It's a landscape, but it's...
Okay.
You get the point. It's not anything.
Well, so it isn't just the photos. The photos are the piece that we have, but Ken's story is very
God.
interesting. So, first of all, Ken talks about after he came out with this information,
Let me guess, his career went really well.
like he had these photos for a very long time and he didn't go public with this stuff until recently. And then, yeah, his career was over at that point. Like he was old, he was retired, but he started getting visitations from Men in Black. He started getting threats, like a lot of the things that we hear over and over and over again. What's really interesting is the part that he can't prove, because he says that when he was working, he saw photographs of very clear structures on the moon. Here's the doozy of it. He says that he saw far more vivid images. He just didn't have like copies of them, but he saw images.
Let me guess, he did take pictures, but they were on his old cell phone and it broke.
It was in the 70s.
I'm joking. That's the new excuse. You haven't heard that yet?
on an old cell phone and it broke.
That's like the new go-to. Like,
Oh, well.
I got this great footage of a Bigfoot.
You just wait. One day, Ken entered a room where he saw strange activity. Given that he felt a sense of responsibility for the integrity of the NASA collection, he inquired as to what was going on. He spoke with several people who called themselves strippers because they were stripping out details in lunar images that might be hard to explain. That day, they were at the task of painting out the stars in particular lunar images. The unusually lame excuse given was that the stars and the lunar sky would confuse people. It was alarming to Ken to discover. He found out also that smudging out anomalies on images was commonplace. Now, he's not the only person who has come out and said that there has been manipulation of NASA photos. And of course, this is why he ended up in Richard Hoagland's book.
Yeah.
Because this is
Huge
Hoagland's
Hoagland focus.
big deal.
Yeah.
Yes. Who knows? Maybe he saw it. Maybe he didn't. I think that he's telling the truth. I think, unfortunately, the time where he could have given the best information was the time where he wasn't really out and speaking about it. But I actually have a copy of his book ordered, and I'm excited to read it. And I mean, if we get a chance to talk to him, I'd love to. Though she had a slightly less official capacity with NASA, because Ken started as a contractor but then ended up working in more extensive capacity with them. This woman, Donna Hare, did have a secret clearance while working for NASA contractor Philco Ford, She says that she was shown a photo of a picture with a distinct UFO.
Thank you, Carl. Good morning, everyone. My name is Donna Hare, and I worked at Philco Ford Aerospace from 1967 to 1981. During that time, I was a design illustrator, draftsman. I did the launch slides and landing slides, and also projection plotting boards, lunar maps for NASA. We were a contractor, but most of the time I worked on site, in Building 8. I had the opportunity to do extra work during downtime, which was between missions, and I walked into a photo lab, which was the NASA lab across the hallway. I had a secret clearance, which is not that high, but I was able to go into restricted areas, which this was. At the time, I was talking to one of the techs in there, and he drew my attention to a photograph, a NASA photograph. It had a dot on it, and I said, "What is that?" Well, he drew my attention to it, and I said, "Is that a dot on the emulsion?" And he said, and he's smiling, and he has his hands crossed, and he said, "Round dots on the emulsion don't leave round shadows on the ground." And this was an aerial photograph of the Earth, I'm assuming the Earth, because it had pine trees on it, and the shadows of the craft, or whatever it was, were in the same angle as the trees. And by its very nature, UFO, and I wanted to clarify that to a gentleman that was talking to me, means unidentified. So I did not know what this was. But I realized at this point that it's very secret, that it was kept secret, because I asked him, "What are you going to do with this piece of information?"
So the friend / colleague that showed her this photo said that it was his job to airbrush this kind of evidence out of photographs before they were released to the public. She also heard information from other Johnson Space Center employees that some astronauts had seen extraterrestrial craft, and that when some of them wanted to speak out about this, they were threatened.
What a goddamn dream job. Like, I know back then it wasn't as easy to airbrush stuff out, but, like, imagine the paychecks that you're getting to be the one that's, like, lying to the public about
I
what's
don't
on.
want that job. Do you know, you would be okay with that?
Of course I would, Kelly. You'll only live once.
Really?
Yes, I would lie to anyone.
Oh, that's very grim for me to know.
I have been lying to you this entire time.
That's not surprising.
All right, boys, come on in. DIA's here. You're busted.
Oh, that's cool. I'm good with it.
You're busted.
Whatever. That's fine. Anyhow, Donna's story isn't all that different, so I'm not going to go into it. But I do think listening to her speak about it is interesting. She is very outspoken about her experiences.
What's her background, though?
I don't know. She was a contractor. I'm sure she has a
She's
science.
she's not a doctor, too?
No, nor do I think that she attended any kind of divinity training.
She's the one that revealed that NASA used the codename Santa Claus that we were talking about last week.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's weird because it's actually a little bit harder to track down the videos of her speaking. They get pulled.
Well, that's because you're not using DuckDuckGo.
No, I don't use DuckDuckGo. That is
It's
correct.
just inconvenient. It
That
doesn't
is correct.
cue research, but that's about it.
I was searching for more NASA whistleblowers about the moon in particular, and I came across some very disgruntled believers, posting on a message board. And these disgruntled believers were really pissed off because a gentleman at JPL had actually explained to them why the photos that they believed contained structures did not, in fact, contain structures. This nice man took the time to show them, oh, actually, you can see this is a glitch in the photo processing, some heat issue.
Sure.
And he's like, in fact, let me take you to this other place where we have all these photos stored, and I can show you. It shows up over and over and over again, the exact same
You
thing.
can look at the negatives and
Look
see
at these.
the
It's
same
here.
thing.
The woman freaked out and was crying, and like her whole life was crushed because she knew this to be true, and suddenly her whole life was upside down. And after digging a little while, I discovered, man, there were a lot of people out there that really strongly disliked this dude. But even the way he went about doing that, I'm like, oh, that's kind of a nice guy. So I fell down the rabbit hole researching him a bit.
Okay, and who's this dude?
Okay, his name is Marion Rudnick.
Okay.
I don't know how we haven't come across him before, Byron.
It's a new name in my
Yeah. He is...
Trekkie, obviously, by the...
He's very legitimate. This guy, they have not been able to bury in any way, shape, or form because he's gone about it in an incredibly intelligent manner. It turns out that Rudnick became a believer, but in a very roundabout way. Are you ready for this?
An astronomer has no business believing in UFOs, but sometimes he has no choice.
Okay, so here's the story that I will tell you, Byron. I also saw his book before I listened to anything from him, and I was like, wow, this guy. And then I listened to a 2-hour talk that he gave a little over a year ago. This guy, oh my God. So I'm going to walk you through his story. I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version of his story. We're going to interview him, so we'll get the details, and I've got some questions that story I told you about him debunking these photos, that happened to him a few times. This one guy came and was demanding to see photos of the Viking lander, and he actually managed different buildings at JPL. Like, he was high enough up, like a ton of people worked for him. He was in charge of different areas, okay? Mm-hmm. He got in so much trouble for denying these people because at a certain point, he had told this very manic UFO investigator that it was like end of the day on a Friday.
They're always running in a weird
You should
sweat.
listen to him describe this guy.
Oh, no surprise.
But he said it was the end of the day on a Friday, and I told him he could come back on Monday, but I had to leave. I had a date to go to. I had this astrophysicist that was waiting for me.
Oh, well, that's nice.
It was really cute. It was so cute. But he was like, I had to leave, and he just got furious and told me that I was going to psychically manipulate the photos over the weekend, and he'd never be able to find him again.
You gotta go.
Poor Marion is, an average-sized man, and apparently this UFO hunter was a Nordic-looking gentleman of like 6'3" and rather burly and had some military background. And anyhow, the guy ended up like contacting senators and getting Marion in a bunch of trouble. And for a while, there were protesters outside of JPL specifically mad at him and saying that he was preventing the disclosure of UFO stuff, which becomes very ironic later in his life. At one point, Stanton Friedman comes into his building at JPL demanding to see photos and is a real, as Marion says, Jack, you insert the last part.
Oh, no.
He's so sweet.
Out of control.
I think it's because he's been on George Norrie, and George Norrie censors everything.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
After these couple of experiences, he discovers something one day that was very much a surprise. As we know, in the government, it's very difficult to get things fixed. And in his building, there was some wiring issue. And rather than waiting for all the paperwork and a contractor to come in and fix it, he was like, you know what, I'm just going to go into the crawl space underneath the floor here, and I'm going to fix the wiring because it's going to take me 20 minutes, and I don't want to wait, 3 weeks to go through all the paperwork and deal with it.
He's a genius. He'll figure it out.
Right. So he goes under there and discovers these weird film canisters. He gets the film canisters out and looks at them and realizes that these film canisters are from the astronauts. You know how there are cameras on board different flights, and then there are cameras that are actually attached to the astronauts?
I didn't know that, actually. They
Yeah,
have like
like
GoPro,
body cameras.
early GoPros. Huh?
Essentially, yeah. These were from Gemini, which was the second human space flight program.
Sure.
Okay. Images from Gemini, and he calls up a couple friends that are like astronomer nerds like himself. But he happens to contact a couple of friends who had previously been super blown away when Stanton Friedman showed up. He didn't know who Stanton Friedman was, but his friends and his brother, who sounds like he was a little bit of like a UFO interest guy.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think both of them were like dorky interests because there's an image of him with literally a Star Trek T-shirt. And I'm not saying that's negative. I'm saying it's
No. But
because
Star Trek doesn't mean you believe UFOs are real.
No, but I'm just saying they're tangentially connected. Like it shows that you have an interest in at least science fiction, which could lead you down a road of
you down the road of becoming a PhD astronomer.
Also, very true.
But he didn't believe any of this, and in fact was kind of annoyed by all of it. And when his friends and his brother made a big deal out of, oh my God, Stanton Friedman, he's famous, that's amazing, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
He was like, I don't care, he's annoying and he's mean, and I just want him to go away.
All right.
So he calls up these friends, and they're like, oh my God, don't tell anybody you have those, we're coming over right now. And so they came to his office to look at these. One of his friends actually had a list of different cells. Is that right? Like film cells?
A list of cells? I mean, I could...
Images?
Oh, sure. Frames.
Thank you. He had a list of frames that he specifically wanted to look at. They got out white gloves, and as they're getting everything out, his friends are telling him, there's supposed to be UFOs in these frames. And he's like, oh my God, no. Is that really what this is about? No, we're not doing this. This is so stupid. You guys are ridiculous. But they rolled them out, and sure enough, every single frame was missing.
Oh, God.
Every single one.
Every time.
He called up his boss the next day to let him know, like, hey, I found these things. What do you want me to do with them? No, you didn't. You don't have those. No, I really do. Like, they're actually right here. No, you don't. And once he finally convinced them that he had them, then they came down and they're like, there's going to be somebody here tomorrow morning to pick them up. Don't you touch these. You pretend like you never saw these. And this guy shows up, no badge, no paperwork, nothing. And he calls the security office and is like, is this the guy I'm supposed to give it to? Like, and they made him describe him, and they were like, okay, yes, give it to him. Don't ask any questions. Don't ever talk about this again. And he's like, I need paperwork. My bosses aren't even here yet. It's early in the morning.
Yeah.
I can't just hand this off. I don't want to get in trouble. And he got like screamed at and told, no, absolutely, you give this to him. And this never happened.
Wow.
And the footage disappeared, never to be seen again. Okay. So that was the first time. Even that, though, he was like, that's kind of weird. Whatever. But everything changed on January 1st, 2017. So this is kind of a recent story, which makes me feel a little bit better about not knowing it, Byron. Have you read his story as you've been listening to me talk about it?
I've been emailing.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, like they responded?
No.
Oh, I was going to say.
That would be amazing.
Jesus Christ. So Marion, this happened to be a New Year's Day that fell on a Sunday. And Marion is a bit of an old car buff.
Okay.
And he really likes diners.
This guy,
He's like the most adorable nerd dude ever.
Pretty charming interest.
He is. And wait until you see him speak. You're going to love him when you
right.
watch one of his interviews. Okay. He decides he's going to take his widowed mother to this adorable McDonald's diner that they have in his mother's town.
Like one of those throwbacky McDonald's.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
All right.
Okay, so they go there. They're eating. They get up to leave. And he goes outside and he sees 4 discs drop down from the clouds and start moving around really strangely. Now, he starts filming.
Oh, no. Okay.
He gets a video.
Sure.
He gets several still frames. He then, for a brief second, turns around to look and see, like, does anybody else see this?
This is Patterson again.
But nobody sees it. And by the time he turns back, it's all gone.
Yeah, stay on the horse next time.
So,
Listen, anyone out there, you see something, stay on the horse.
well, I don't know. If he had seen anything else or recorded anything else, he might not be telling this story today.
All right.
What
Okay.
happened to Marion after this was really interesting. He tells his brother and his friends, and everybody's all excited, but they're like, don't tell anybody yet. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, one of his friends,
Fucking snitch. This happened with Lazar, too.
apparently, unbeknownst to Marion, this friend somehow communicated with sister who was either in or had a husband that was in Air Force Space Command. Also, unbeknownst to him, he was tricked into coming over to this friend's house to work on a computer. Like, I need some help with my
I was
computer.
going to say either that or he's hosting a D&D game.
So he goes over. I don't know. He may not
This
be
guy
a D&D
looks like a
guy.
D&D guy. Come on now. Him and his brother?
I think he might be like generationally just out of that D&D era.
You think he paints model cars?
Yeah.
Probably.
He shows up, and after a few minutes, the friend's like, I'm going to go over to the neighbors.
The cough was a code for...
Here, talk to my sister. And he's like, what? And no, I don't want to talk to her. And like puts her up on video. And her husband gets on and says, so I hear you've got this video. Show me the video. And he's like, okay. And like holds up his phone. Or I can't remember whether it was on his phone or his camera, but whatever it was. Holds it up.
They were on a webcam.
Yes, they were on a webcam.
Okay.
He holds it up to show him.
Sure.
Okay, so, yep, those are very real, and you're going to give us all that data, and you're never going to talk about this again. And I work for the Space Command, blah, 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 blah.
Close the laptop and go on the fucking run, my dude.
So he was like, oh, fuck. I mean, he's like, he works for JPL. He's like this super nerdy, like, spent his life building this career in
Gotta
astronomy.
tell you, Walter White was a science teacher, and then he became a meth kingpin.
Okay, but no offense to teachers. I love teachers, but the amount of energy it takes to go through the educational process to become a teacher versus to get in with
Oh, I'm just saying,
JPL.
give it all up to be a superhero. Go on the run with that footage, my dude.
Well, again, here's why this guy's smart.
All right.
He hands over the photos, but holds on to the data himself. Like, he does not give it all away, right? And
Makes copies.
And he doesn't turn over the video. And he calls none other than Stanton Friedman. Actually sent an email to Stanton Friedman. And this was in the last couple of years of Stanton's life, right? Like, this was one of the last things that Stanton worked on.
And they were frenemies, right?
Well, at this point, Stanton didn't remember him, right? So
course.
he just emailed and said, fellow astronomer needs help. Please contact me, blah, blah. And Stanton called right back the next day, or emailed back, and they set up a phone call. So he explained the whole story to him. Hi, airplane.
Hey. Freaking.
He explains the whole story to him, and Stanton says, okay, well, yeah, here's who you need to talk to. We're going to help get your information to Dr. Bob Wood. He's somebody that you really need to be talking to. And he was able to send the photos to Stanton Friedman because this all happened very quickly after that conversation with Space Force Man.
Oh, I imagine so.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that was kind of like the last electronic communication he was able to make before nothing worked for him. Like, he couldn't get emails through to this Dr. Bob Wood guy. All of his social media profiles went down without any recourse. We know what that
Okay.
feels like.
Yeah, we do.
He was a writer. He had a children's book, like Santa Claus's Sister or something like that, that was supposed to come out around Christmas.
Are you sure it was a children's book?
Yes, it was.
Santa Claus's sister could go in a lot of directions.
Yes, I know. This. Trust me, you got to listen to this guy. He won't say jackass.
That's true. You're absolutely
Okay.
right.
Okay. So, with book publications, if you're coming out with a Christmas book, you got to put it out in July.
Yeah.
And so this was happening in July. His publishing page for Amazon was yanked. When he contacted Amazon, they were like, what are you talking about? You never had one. Like, all of the crazy shit that you hear people talking about, whether it's Lazar, Hoagland, or anybody else, saying like, no, really, all of these things were real about me, but they've all been scrubbed. It's all gone. He documents all of these things. But luckily, he has evidence, and this is the reason he has photos like that weird photo of him holding a planet. He has evidence along the way of like different presentations he gave. So like, even though NASA or JPL denied that he worked with them at first, kind of like Lou Elizondo,
Yeah.
he was able to say like, no, I did. Screw you. I have evidence.
Do you
And so
want to know
what?
what Santa's sister's name is?
What?
Noelle Kringle.
I thought that was that Santa's sister. I thought that was Santa's daughter.
Come on, that's what this says. I'm surprised you know that. Wait,
There was a
Santa-
movie about it.
Santa has a daughter?
Yeah, did you not see it?
Of course not. Even though I do.
Yeah, you have a podcast all about
Well,
that.
I'm
Come
a
on, Pete.
producer of a podcast called The Most Wonderful Pod of the Year, and they are doing Christmas in July, all July. Tune in, folks.
Moon, June, Christmas in July.
Keeping me busy.
I love it.
Love it as well. He also has a book called Bamboo Garden.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is just a sweet, nerdy dude.
It's a collection of poetry that's compiled in specially aligned chapters that take the reader through a journey of the heart.
Oh my God, I love it.
I kind of do as well.
His whole life starts crumbling. He talks to a friend that he has at the DOD, explains what's going on. He describes a perfect phrase for it, and I can't find it for some reason. When I find it in the interview, Byron, I'll tell you, and you can put it in the show notes. But
Oh, okay.
something about an attack on livelihood, or like withholding of livelihood, which essentially his friend told him that they have government, this is pretty commonplace, and it sounds very similar to what we hear about with Lazar and other individuals in this universe. And I'm sure for reasons that have nothing to do with UFOs too, right? I'm sure that it's retribution for all sorts of things if you screw over the government, but they will attack your ability to make an income.
Why does everyone assume that the government has like this malicious grudge?
Well, wait, but honestly,
it seems to be a reaction that we hear a lot.
right. And normally it sounds like crazy, paranoid, tinfoil hat people.
Sure.
Marion's story is the opposite of that.
Speaking of stories, Santa's sister, the original story of Santa's sister, Noelle Kringle, aka Noelle Claus, it's 470 pages long.
I love him.
That is so thick for like a children's story.
I love it. Think about The Hobbit.
I guess, yeah.
Think about Harry Potter.
I'm just, well, listen, you're
Yeah.
putting him up there with those classics, the literary masters.
It's Marion. Byron, I need you to stop reading
I'm
his
sorry.
fiction summaries and listen to what I'm telling you about his life.
I'm with you.
So, this sister that spilled Z beans?
Santa's?
No.
Okay.
His friend's sister.
Ah.
Apparently, his friend calls him, or the friend's sister, who might have direct info at this point, but one of them calls and says, my husband overheard something. I don't know that he was supposed to hear it, but apparently they're sending something to you right now.
Something.
F-18? We don't know what F-18 is.
Oh, no.
What? Like F-18s?
Yeah,
Why,
F-18.
What? Why would they be sending F-18s? And he's like, whatever. He's like, whatever, okay. Monrovia, California is where he lives, taking care of his elderly mother, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That night on the news, his mother says, Marion, come and look at this. 2 F-18 jets unexpectedly landed in fucking Monrovia.
Did they have an airstrip that...
No.
Okay.
And looking at the insignias, they're from Virginia.
Close to
Do you know
DC,
what they're
right?
from? The fucking Nimitz.
Really?
Yes.
The Nimitz, the focus of
Yes.
the more recent
Yes.
footage.
Yes. For more land. And he's like, so at first when I'm hearing him tell the story, I'm like, okay, we've fallen off the deep end. Like, I don't care how pissed they are at this dude. Why are they sending F-18s?
Well,
like, that doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't make sense. I worked at an airport for a very long time, and Missoula is a mid-sized city, but our runway isn't equipped for any sort of jets like that or larger Boeings. Like, we couldn't land a 747. That was something that we had to consider.
So here's what was going on. It wasn't because they were coming and trying to attack him. It's because as soon as he sent the video footage to Air Force McGillicuddy,
Okay.
they could tell more about what was going on. So one of the things he talks about in the footage is there's this pulsating nature to one of the craft. And he's like, it almost looks like there was something wrong with it. And the other 3 were like trying to triangulate around it as though they were like trying to heal it or something. I don't think he used the word heal, but that was my interpretation.
Maybe keeping it stable.
Charged or stable or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the fact that they disappeared and he didn't see them again. They were able to tell something from that video. These planes were there doing a recon mission, trying to do a recovery of a crash.
Do you think so?
Well, and that's what his DOD friend said, watching where they were going, and they were going over the San Gabriel Mountains and like into this specific area with this crazy series of canyons.
Why don't we have F-18s in the Pacific Ocean? I'm confused by that.
We do. These ones, apparently there were 4 more that came in from elsewhere. Like they sent
They flew
in.
across the United States.
Yes. And here's the thing. He has like the CBS News clip
Oh, wow.
saved.
Okay.
Like
Do airplanes have license plates? Like, how do we know?
No, but they have call numbers on them.
You're right. They do have call numbers. Duh.
Yeah,
fuck.
except some of the ones that he saw were completely unmarked. And when you're talking about a crazy military aircraft without any markings, that's really scary.
Sure. How many planes were in this flying convoy?
Over the course of the next few weeks, it sounds like there were a lot. Well, there were 4 that came in the morning. There were 2 that landed later. And then over the next couple of days, more came in.
Coming in and out.
And it was all different kinds of craft, and they were like patrolling the mountain area. And like his DOD friend said, pay close attention because they're having you look at those, and the real work, the real detail work is probably being done by more specialized craft that's higher up, doing recon.
Literally
from higher.
and figuratively.
Yeah.
Wow.
As crazy as all of this sounds, this really is only the beginning of what happened and has happened to Marion. And I truly believe that the only reason he has been able to hold his footing is a combination of the exact time that he's come out with this stuff, because things are being talked about now, and also the fact that he has documented it so religiously that there's no way they could easily scrub it. He takes pictures of everything, and he has like old school cameras so that it's not hooked up to a cloud that can just be zapped.
Bring those Hasselbacks back.
He's got photos of everything.
Wow.
It's amazing. I cannot wait to tell you the rest of his story.
So we're talking part 2.
Yes.
Wow.
This guy is my favorite human ever.
What an unexpected delight, Kelly.
Yeah.
I can't tell you I
And
believe
here's-
everything he's saying.
But here's the thing, Byron. Keep in mind, the way that I arrived at Marion was because the proponents of structures on the moon were really pissed at his debunking.
Wow.
I might have come to a point now, pretty sure we at least don't have solid evidence of structures on the moon.
So far.
But I am all on board the Marion train.
I can't wait to talk about it more.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you so much for that report.
Oh my God.
Moon June continues next week. I want to know what you guys are thinking about this story, though. Let us know on Twitter and Instagram. You could send an email, contact@frightday.com. Leave a comment below this episode in the show notes at frightday.com, or let's talk about this in the Facebook group or the Discord server, facebook.com/group/Frightday or discord.frightday.com.
Give me an interview.
I'm working on it.
I really gotta talk to Marion.
You might have to wait till next Moon June, Kelly.
No!
It's ending pretty quick here.
No, I cannot wait till next Moon June.
Well, Kelly, where are you going to be until then? Just waiting?
We'd be waiting by the phone for you to tell me that we can talk to Marion.
Okay. You're also at Kelly Frightday.
Right. At Kelly Frightday, if you're listening, Marion.
Well, come on.
Kelly@frightday.com, Twitter, email, get a hold of me. Seriously, though, this is like, I haven't been this excited about a story in a really long time.
And I'm at Byron McKoy on Twitter and Instagram. Byron@frightday.com is my email address. And until next Friday, I'm Byron.
I'm Kelly. Full moon right behind you. Moon June, Byron.
I see that. It's actually full tomorrow, by the way.
Okay, well, it's really close at least.
And stay scared. You've been listening to an Audio Wool original, produced by Byron McKoy, theme music provided by Cemeteries. For more programs like this, visit audiowool.co.